to flat grey. Your bright colours will never work unless you have some dull colours next to them. You can't just go crazy. Anyone know Howard Hodgkin? Like Howard Hodgkin? I'm sure I saw Howard Hodgkin painting a painting with a mop on the floor. He was like propped up the canvas with some tins of paint on the four corners, and he was painting with a mop. And I thought, when I get a big studio, I'm going to try that. I don't promise that I would continue with it. I'll certainly try. Howard Hodgkin, why was I talking about him? He said, what did he say? What was I talking about before that? I can't remember. Yeah, Howard Hodgkin said, if you paint, with saturated colours, which I do, if you paint it too much like that, it ends up looking like a disco, which I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing. Discos can be quite fun. But you need that sophistication. We also need a reference point to enjoy those bright colours with it. And that's what Matisse was all about. He's one of my heroes, is Matisse. I think any colourist is obsessed with Matisse. My work might be some sort of weird mix of Matisse. What do you get if you cross Matisse and Turner? And add a little bit of abstract expressionism into the mix. Yeah. See, my problem with this colour here is it's starting to describe too much like the colour of the water in Harris. So the issue with that is going to be that I don't paint things, I paint the difference between things. And the difference between that colour and the colour of the Harris water, which you want to make a comment about, is too close to make a statement when you come to the bottom. So you just fire in with a little bit of neutral. This is a gungy grey that stays on my palette. When I've finished my colours and I've mixed up all my painting, at the end of the painting day I'll scrape it all up and I won't waste it. I'll mix it all together and I'll make a nice grey, a grey of the sort I could never mix. And I'll keep it like in a block of real gungy paint. But I need to lighten it. So I'll go in and probably just use that. And immediately, as Howard Hodgkin says, you go mental with these colours, you're gonna lose people. You're gonna make it look like a disco. And then we come with a bit of grey and we start to give people a wee bit of a break. Right, I think it's about time to get rid of Mr. White. That reference point's been done. There's nothing I like more than to run the hills into the sky. The concept about my work really is about how, landscape painting's all about this horizon, especially if it's seascape, which this will be. Sea and sky, and you've got this line across, and that's this barrier between top and bottom. I like to think about it as light dissipating from top to bottom, and then the water is only there to give you that source of light when it reflects, to bring that light through the foreground, to guide that light down and above. I had this painting called Above and Below, and I like that idea that you see the world not as a solid and a gas, but it's just all around you, and it can kind of dissipate. And a lot of sort of misty scenes can do that very obviously, where it blocks out everything far away, so you don't get that idea of a horizon. But the horizon level is it's so kind of obvious for people. It's like when people put eyes right at the top of a head in a portrait. People think eyes are at the top of the head because it's the uppermost feature on the head, but they're not there in the middle. and by the same token, people go straight for a horizon and think too much about a horizon when they think about a seascape or a landscape, and it creates far too much of a barrier across your composition. Composition's more important than your preconceived ideas of how to build a landscape. Okay, now that I've got rid of that white, I can now start thinking about creating some light with some paint. There's a point in time in the evening when the sun is coming down, and there's a point in time I really like where most of what you see is in total shadow, but the sky is still lit by the setting sun, and it gives this real. The sky, as you look at it, just gets warmer and warmer and warmer until there's a light in the cloud above a certain level, because the cloud's at a height that it can see the setting sun, which is a very warm colour. So sometimes I like to play with that. I mean, people think of a sunset as these warm colours down at the horizon, but that's looking into the sun. What happens when the other side, or when the light source isn't in view? We get such great, more subtle effects. We've almost covered the whole of the canvas now, so you can kind of, it's now an exercise of sort of organising some of the chaos. I like organised chaos. I like that something was done as if it was, not as if it was, it pretty much was slapped on fairly quickly. But you've got to organise it, because you can't just, although recently I've been thinking I want to leave it like that, you know. I've got two paintings in the studio that are the same size as this, but maybe another foot on it, and they're kind of not much further on than this, and I just want to leave them alone. So it's the eternal question: when's a painting finished? I get asked that so many times. When is a painting finished? Mostly by people that don't paint, that don't understand what you're doing. They're like, oh, but when is it finished? Why is it finished now? You haven't finished it. It's finished when you like it, you know? If you like it and you think, yeah. And sometimes you surprise yourself. You've done something so good you're surprised. It doesn't happen often. And once in a while you say, do you know what, that's great. And I kind of explained this concept one time where I've just put war paint on. I explained this concept one time, and it was because somebody was ready for giving up in the audience of one of these things. That's quite a bad one. Somebody in the audience is like, yeah, I'm going to give up. It's terrible. Oh, jeez, oh. That's that artist's soil colours. It should have been the student stuff I put in the face. I don't know where that came from. Yeah, they were just ready for giving up. I'm not happy. And it's because what happens as you get older is you get more experienced of looking at artwork, at looking at other people's artwork, at going to museums, at looking at artwork online or in magazines or an art magazine or something like that. And you start to develop a knowledge about what makes a good painting. And everybody does that, not just painters. People that appreciate art and don't paint can do that. But they would never want to pick up a paintbrush because they could never achieve what they know makes a good painting. So if your ability dips below your eye, if you know what I mean, so your eye for a good painting, then it's crisis time. And then when your ability exceeds your eye, you produce something that you think, wow, I've achieved it. You get this boost of confidence, and you've just got to stick in it till that happens, basically. The way that you paint, to understand painting, you need to know what goes on in the mind of the person that's painting it. And someone else mentioned to me as well, how do you get on sort of copying from another artist's work to learn something? And yes, you can learn that way. And I think I painted with a hake brush, watching Ron Ranson when I was 10 years old at an art club. Does anyone know Ron Ranson? I had a Ron Ranson hake. I still have it in my studio. I never use it anymore, just it's there for posterity. It was my first effing brush, I suppose. But you know, as someone starting out with oils, watercolors, it was just, you know, to see a painting painted with big brushes. That's always stuck with me. So I guess Ron Ranson, and I'm sure I must have tried one of the Ron Ranson paintings at one stage. You know, there's a fir tree with these big chisel-edged marks. My brush always went really fat. The bristles were like that instead of like this. That's like flat. And I said, where's he getting it? He's putting his name on these products. It's nothing like he's using on his show. But it's, you know, what can you learn from copying? More if you've seen them paint in commentate, put it that way. So, but as I said, I don't have a YouTube channel so that people can paint along. It's like, first you do this, and it's like, when I do this, it's not like, first you've got to start with this colour, and then this, and then you start with it. You've always got to start with yellow. No, there's no rules, it's not a Bob Ross special. You stifle someone's creativity if you basically say, look, this is the way it works. Right, we'll get back to this. Okay, refinement stage, but at this stage I suppose I've had a chance to step back. Somebody mentioned it looked quite good on the screen. Probably looks even better from outside that door right now. Just across the street. Without your glasses on, outside the door it looks just fine. No, but by this stage, you've got, what you want to do is make a decision about what you're keeping and what you're not keeping, what you're keeping, what you're not keeping. You're cleaning up some bits, and by all means, do preserve the stuff that happened and happened well. This initial mark that I put down, and then I cut into it because it was just too big and it would catch your eye too much. Unless I do something else of a similar strength somewhere else, it's not going to work. So, but I like that. I like that mark. I like putting down a mark at the start and then saying, how do I keep it?